Hello YouTubers. Today I'm going to rebuild the ceiling fan. Oh yeah, I'm rebuilding it. As you can see, this is an old Hampton based ceiling fan. Now I just replaced this for a client of mine today in her living room. And there's a lot of history about this ceiling fan right here. Now what happened was the pole chain got knocked out. And the fan was just running all year long. And the motor eventually failed. And when I took it down, I noticed there's this fine powdery rust coming out of this part. Now, it was on vaulted ceilings, as you can see. It's got a really long down rod. This is the original down rod. But I actually had another ceiling fan that fell off the ceiling, but some parts I needed for this fan were in still good condition. Like, see? This is the new down rod I'm putting on the ceiling fan, and it actually works. Because I'm going to actually install it in my workshop, which would be in here. Here's the base, and then this part comes off. There's the original bracket. Now, just to give you an idea how old this fan is, look at this design. Oh, look at that. See this fine texture here? Let me put this down on here. Look at that. This fan has got to be like right around the 80s or 90s. Because the house was built in the 90s. And this is the interesting point on the blade. I've seen these blades everywhere, and actually the new fan I installed actually had the same blade, just it was a darker wood and it did not have this detail on it. Now I have a new motor here that I took out of an old fan. Like I told you guys, the history behind that fan, it fell off the ceiling. It was a brand new fan too, because it wasn't installed properly by the original owner. Right here, this is the new motor going in that Hampton based ceiling fan, and this is one of those newer ones, so this guy will be pretty fast. I just have the pole chain assembly, all the capacitors. I'm gonna get that out for you guys. There's the pole chain assembly, and no, I'm not putting a light kit on this guy because he didn't have one, and I'm gonna leave it original. So yeah, this is the pole chain assembly. Here's the capacitors. Now, this is pretty interesting. Most ceiling fans have one giant capacitor. These two, this one has two capacitors. And plus, there was a current limiter in this fan too, because it also had a light in there, but I took it out because I really wanted to clutter that little fixture up. And here's the old base, which I'm not going to use in my case. It'll look kind of goofy. There's a current limiter, which I'm also not using. It's too much clutter in one ceiling fan. Now this was strapped by electrical tape. This was that one that fell off the ceiling. This is why you don't do this. There's a reason why you always need to replace the bracket. The previous owner used the same bracket that the old ceiling fan used. He just left it up there and just popped this guy in. That's why it fell off the ceiling. And I'm going to give you guys a tip. If you replace a ceiling fan, don't be using old parts. Use all the new parts included with the new fan. Do not ever freaking use old parts, because you're asking for serious trouble. And I'll get this fan off the table here. I need to clean this guy up because it's kind of dusty just from use over the years. So this motor is completely failed. I haven't opened it yet, but I'm opening this entire guy up. And look at all that rust right there. Look at all that. That just tells you that the motor's pretty much gone. So I'll get back to you guys. Actually, there was a penny too. I actually forgot to show you. I don't know how that got in there. Look at that. I noticed that when I was replacing this fan at a client's house I was doing it for. This penny somehow got in here. I don't know how, but somebody threw it up there and it got caught in the cloth. Someone, excuse me about that. But I'll get back to you guys when I get this entire ceiling fan pulled all apart. Okay, YouTubers. So I decided to take the light kit piece apart to examine the capacitor. Oh, this is pretty interesting, you guys. Look at these bubbles on this plastic capacitor. Look at this. This guy's gone. It failed. Right on the RU logo, too. Look at that. That's the biggest bubble I've seen in these capacitors. All I have to say is it failed. But I bet you that motor's gone, too, because it's probably been stuck in the same position for the longest time, and it probably hasn't been spinning, so probably one of the coils opened. So that guy, I have to say, is gone. I'm getting rid of that sucker. So now I have to cut all these wires and get this part off, the light kit piece, and then I have to make my way down to the motor. So after I'm done gutting this entire motor assembly apart, I'll get back to you YouTubers. I got this motor assembly out. Doesn't look as bad as I thought it would be, but it still spins freely. It's not seized, but this guy, I would just consider replacing it, because this guy's old. Got all the oil. Look at all that. Like somebody had sprayed oil in here because it was making too many noises. This and that motor are very similar. It actually uses the 6-hole bracket, so this will fit on that. It'll fit on the cover just fine. No, I'm not taking this motor apart. These suckers are pretty hard to take apart, and I'm not going to go out all my way and take this sucker apart. It's trash. I'm not going to use this piece of junk. This is done. This is done. So now I got to clean up all of this housing. So I'll get the housing pieces out, and I will show you guys just an idea of how dusty it is from over the years. Look at all that. Now, if your ceiling fan's like this, you need to clean it, because if you don't, your motor's going to overheat like this guy probably did and blew its caps off. This guy isn't too bad like this guy is. The cloth is completely dusty. So now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to probably take this outside and spray it down and put some soap on it, some dish soap. Take the blades apart. And then try to get this bracket off of this old motor. This guy, because that's to the old blades. And that guy isn't really easy to get off either. And then I have to take this connector out. That Molex connector. Because that's what it kind of reminds me of, a Molex connector. But I need to take the pins out of this guy and try to migrate it to this fan. Into the light kit. Now, since I have double caps, I'm hoping these two will fit. They don't look as big. They don't look that big compared to the old guy. And this was a branded fan, but it's like really new from like 2015. So this was manufactured a year ago. This hadn't been around since the 80s, I have to say. But hey, it's going to get a new motor. The ceiling fan's going to have a better performance. Why throw away a perfectly good ceiling fan if you could find an old beat up ceiling fan with a good motor still? You could basically use it as a donor. That's what I call it, just donating parts over to that old fan. Because hey, look at this housing, it's still in great shape. And then you have another ceiling fan that fell off with the beat up housing, but the motor's good. You could use all those parts for a fan that's old, but it's still in good condition. So now, my next part is getting this guy off. I can't completely take it off yet because of this Molex connector. So I'll get back to you guys when I'm done. It's gonna take a little while. So get back to you when I'm done with that. Okay, YouTubers. So I finally got the light kit piece on the new motor. So the light kit piece is ready to go. The motor's ready to go. It's got a brand new pole chain included with this motor. Works fine. Got two big capacitors in there. There is no reverse switch. I took that out of this motor because it broke with this motor when it fell. So there you go. There's this part. And I got my wires up here, ready to go in the down rod. So now, I'm going to start putting this housing back together. Which I'll do right here. I cleaned this all up. It's all clean in there now. Remember how dirty this was? You're supposed to see through that. If you can't see through that, well, it means it's too dirty. So, this is ready to get mounted on this motor, so. Yeah, let's get going. So I'm going to put this down like that. So that way my light kit piece doesn't get scratched. I'm going to do it like that. Get these wires fished through. Line all the holes up. So there's that piece right there. Now I'm going to have to dig the screws in the water because I put the screws in the water for some cleaning, some soapy water. Now what I use to clean the pieces up and all the parts, I use dish soap because this was full of kitchen grease as well, as I mentioned in my earlier video. Earlier actually, excuse me on that, but this was covered in kitchen grease. And dish soap will remove the kitchen grease. So yeah, because what happens is when you have a ceiling fan too close to a kitchen over time, it's going to build all that grease up. Let's see these old screws. Yeah, these old screws are too big. Let me dig some new guy down this pile. There we go. Look, I dug some new screws out of a pile I have right here. These are the new screws I'm going to be installing. Some of these holes I might have to drill through a little bit more to get it to strap on there. So these are my new screws that I'm going to have to put in there. Some kind of look crooked, I know. I'll get back to you when I'm done putting this piece back together. Okay, YouTubers. So I got my ceiling fan motor inside this housing now, the new guy. So what happened was I killed the capacitor in there. And I didn't kill it with electricity. It's because the old fan, it provided screw holders on the capacitor, and then I guess I smashed it in by putting this cap on. But I can replace the capacitor, which is a good thing. So for right now, I have to manually start it. So I'm going to flip my power strip. There you go. This is without the blades. Let me spin it the other direction. So there you go, you guys. There's a new motor inside the ceiling fan. But now what I need to do is, I need to come back in here. I need to go back in here. Let me unplug it and see what happened in here. All the capacitors and everything take place in here. And I hooked everything correct. Because I knew something wasn't right when I heard a little snap. So this is the guy that went bad. This is my suspect right here. This guy. It's 3-wired. So it looks like your hot would go in here and then this would be distributed over to the pole chain. So yeah, that's how these suckers work. And see how there's a crack right there? That's the bad guy. And I wired everything up, match colors to colors. I'm not putting a light kit in this fan either, so this is just going to act as a junction box to put all my capacitors and stuff in. So I'll go find this sucker on the internet, or I'll probably eventually, when I go to the Goodwill, I will get an old ceiling fan motor that's messed up, but see if it's in good condition. And if it is in good condition, maybe I could rip the sucker out, but I think it has to be a specified capacitor, a specific type. That's really important because you don't want to fry your ceiling fan motor. So I'll put all this back together and I'll figure out how to mount this on a surface with the ceiling fan blades on to give you an idea how it runs. Okay, YouTubers, this is the final product of the ceiling fan. I finally got the capacitor in the mail yesterday. I ordered it last week and then I was supposed to get it on Thursday, but I was out of town, so yeah. I got the capacitor yesterday, wired it all up in that light kit housing, and look at this, it works. Now here's my old capacitors I tore out of the ceiling fan right here. Here's the 5 microfarads and 6 microfarads on one plastic block, and then here was a 4.5 microfarad capacitor. Those were separated because it was in a different ceiling fan where the whole thing would pretty much spin on one side of the fan. But I ended up taking the motor down like I told you guys because the fan fell off the ceiling, but the motor was good, so I moved it away into this fan. Fits in here perfectly. I just had to drill holes up in that housing to get the screw holes to all match and line up. But those are not the original blades. These are the original blades, and the problem with these blades were some of these are in really bad shape. Like, look at how really bad off balance this is. These are just old blades that are falling apart. They've been through so much over the years, but now the story behind these blades, these are the Harbor Breeze Crosswinds blade. I ended up finding these next door thrown away, just the blades with the arms, and that was cool, and I took them. But that was kind of unusual because there was no motor. It was just the blades with the arms, and it had all the screws with it. And it fits in that motor just fine. And then it causes this fan not to wobble bad anymore. All I did was I stuck a coin on one of the blades, and I also did the same thing with this fan. I did the coin trick with the duct tape. The trick works well. If you have a really bad wobbly ceiling fan, all you have to do is just stick the coin at the way edge of the blade with some duct tape. And it works really well. And this isn't wobbling bad anymore. Now, how I wired it up is, I finally decided to just hook this box up right here. I had this box already up, but then I put an outlet right there, which starts to circuit off to these two. Here's a dimmer switch to this unit. And I can put a dimmer on it. This switch controls both these ceiling fans, both of them. And then right here is a 14 gauge treadmill cord that I had for a long time. And right, this is an old treadmill cord, 14 gauge. So I just decided to put it on there because it's a heavy gauge wire. This extension cord is 16 gauge, which would be perfect because I wanted to put a 14 gauge so that way I could plug my power tools in this outlet instead of having to unplug that. And I have my wires going up. That one wire going up that hole is the ceiling fan wire, and then there it is going up to the rafters. And now it's going up to that beam. Drilled a hole through that beam, ran that wire up to the base, which this fan had a conduit knockout on the top, as you could probably see. Here's my two wires coming in and out. So that wire going in is to power this fan up, and then that other wire goes all the way to this ceiling fan up to that old Octagon light fixture box that I got at Home Depot for $2. Remember that old blue box? That was the old switch for the fire alarm system, and I ended up changing it all out, and I had this box extra. So all I did was I just put two nuts up there, two sharp nut screws up to the stud. I drilled it all in there, which holds up pretty nice on the joist up in the attic. And this fan is really well secured. That box has some screws, but I just stuck some rubber washers on there to keep vibrations off of the box from knocking screws out over time. I used the original bracket, the base, and the housing. The down rod is an original. That's all new from the same ceiling fan that motor came off of. And then those blades I trash picked, and I could tell they're from a Harbor Breeze ceiling fan because of the design. Now all the speeds work, so there's a new pole chain that came with the motor. Right now that's on medium now. That's on medium. That's slow. See all that breeze hitting my fake tree over here? That's just to give you an idea how much air this fan puts out. None of that air isn't coming from this ceiling fan because it's only in this area where the airflow is hitting down at. Just in this little section of my workshop. This side there was no breezes at all coming from that ceiling fan because it's way far out on that other side. So how my fake tree is kind of moving from the wind up of the ceiling fan. This is on slow. That's off. And back on the fast speed. Look at all that breeze. Now, the old motor in this fan, I guarantee it wasn't this fast before, but now look at how fast that is. This is a 2015 motor, so this was made a year ago. And it gives me really great airflow in the back now, so now I don't have to get so hot in here because where I live, it's Arizona, and it's hot out here every year, especially in here because I'm facing the west side, which then in the evenings, the sun shines on the door here, and then all the heat all gets released off this door, and it just gets so hot in here. But these ceiling fans help. Unfortunately, the ceiling fan did not have a light kit, which I'm fine with that because I have a light in the back and then I have these other lights over here, and this one has a light as well. But I'm fine with that because the capacitor is big, and then I had to put wire nuts up there because I didn't feel like undoing the Molex connectors. I just cut the old Molex connector off and just wire nutted everything with the blue wire nuts. And this switch, I'll show you. It controls both of these guys. I know all you ceiling fan collectors like Hampton Bay ceiling fans especially, because this was like, I think, an early 2000 Hampton Bay. It even says it on the side. Hampton Bay fan and lighting with the gold finish or brass, whatever you want to call that. This one has a copper finish to it. Actually, I like the finish of these two ceiling fans. The majority of the ceiling fans in my house are white, except I have these two and then the one in my room that are different colors. The rest of them are all white. And I'm assuming the other ones, the white ceiling fans in this house, are made by Hampton Bay because they also kind of have a similar design to this housing. A couple of them have the similar design, and then the rest are the flat mount to the ceiling with that big housing. Which those are kind of noisy now because they're old. They're made in 2004. This has got to be made somewhere in the early 2000s, but it works good. This one's got some pretty good ball bearings because look at this one's slowing down too. These both got pretty good ball bearings. It should last a long time. Yeah, and the arms are not original. Like I told you guys earlier in this video, the arms are also on the blades, which was cool because then I could stick the arms on there. They fit perfectly on there. I know all you ceiling fan collectors like ceiling fans and you like to restore them. I basically just rebuilded this guy. I rebuilt it. And there it goes back on again. Because I just didn't, why throw away a nice ceiling fan that just has a bad motor? It wasn't in bad shape. Just the blades are in bad shape. The housing was in great shape. And it was dusty in there, but I cleaned it. And all I had to do is get a new capacitor. I had the new motor on hand. And then the blades also I have on hand too. That I just trash picked. I might just leave these blades up here because these guys are so old, they're falling apart. And this was exposed to like moisture because this is all like popping up. These blades are no good, and it caused this to wobble so bad. I didn't want it to fall off, even though it's secured up there very well. Well, I hope all you guys enjoyed the rebuild video, and subscribe to me.